Yeah, I totally cut you off, Kishinjo. We can talk about anime later. Hello, I'm James Craig. I'm an independently published author of mostly science fiction. And I'm joined here by two guests from my Gilded server, which you can find the link in the description because that is where I organize this book club. This past month was The Color of Magic by Sir Terry Pratchett. I think I might be the only one in the Gilded that actually bought a paperback of this thing, apparently, because y'all found it on YouTube. Yep,
I actually picked up a Audible copy and then found it on YouTube.
I hope you got your credit refunded.
Nah, but I might for the next book.
I refuse to implicate myself.
Maybe your book wasn't that bad. I've read worse. It was fun. It had its moments. It was charming.
All right. We'll get to that in a sec because we're not here because there are introductions such as you can buy my book in the description, list in the description. I have a bunch of water damage in my basement and I'm replacing shit that melted essentially. That's why my background is junk. So, okay. So thanks for coming on, guys. Want to introduce yourselves before we get into this kind of a mess of a book?
Gotcha. My name is James Esparza. I'm a short story writer. You can find all my stories at worldwithoutendlore.substack.com, where I write all my stories in one singular world. It's just this huge project I'm working on to help bring this world to life with short stories, hopefully some animations in the future, a lot of art, and it's basically just going to be like my lifetime project bringing this world to life. So come and join the journey with me at worldwithoutendlore.substack.com. And our theme is adventure and terror with a lot of fantasy. And there's plenty of cyberpunk too.
Link is in the description.
Thank you.
His link is actually above my link, so you're going to have to scroll to get to the good stuff.
Wow. Thanks.
I think you just mixed up the Jameses.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Kishinjo, introduce yourself, then we can talk Terry Pratchett.
All right, then.
Stop chatting in the chat. You're on the stream.
Oh, shut up, James. I'll type where I want. I'm an author. Nobody can stop who I type. Anyway, yes, I am Kishinjo. I shamelessly stole the name from the 14th Toho game. I am an author. I published one even, which is fucking spectacular. My life made it something.
You're a top 1% of writers.
Oh,
good job, man.
Good observation. Yeah, I do update my own website once every 2 months. It's castleofkishinjo.neocities.org. I'm not very good at this shit. I am nearing completion of the second one, and I do plan to start doing shit on Railroad as well. I'll post links and shit about that at some point. And then I'm also on Twitter a lot of time where I'm not actually doing anything productive. I'm just posting, I don't know, Toho Girl Tees. But if you like that, you can follow me there anytime. I might even, once in a blue moon, have a little bit of insight. You may take the stand.
Okay, so Discworld. Did either of you guys know about Discworld before you started this book? Or more importantly, have you read a Discworld book before this?
I have not read of it, but I have heard of it through osmosis, and I looked up the lore beforehand, and it was like, all right, this is too much for me to want to ingest right now.
It's quite absurd.
Well, as a Brit man, it's kind of been like present in some form or another a lot of time. Like I'd get to bookstores and see it, but I'd never actually picked it up and read it. I was just kind of aware of the basic, premise of it. World on the disc, bunch of elephants, a turtle, shit like that. Never actually read one.
Yes, it was this book though that established the Big Bang Theory.
As we all know,
very important. We need to send some Chelonauts down to confirm if the turtle has a wing or not, because we need to know what will happen if he finds another giant galactic turtle. Are they going to get it on, or are they going to kill each other?
And is he the pitcher or the catcher? What's going on here? Yeah, this is what when I was reading it, it kind of imbued the spirit of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy a little bit.
This is better than Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I didn't even really like this book. This is better than Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I have only seen the movie and heard portions of the audio.
Movie's better, actually.
Really?
Fight me.
Because it's been a while. I made me laugh, and I got terrible taste. Most things can make me laugh and smile, and I hold that as a point of pride because I don't have to suffer like many others do.
So the reason the movie of Hitchhikers is better is because a lot of the jokes in the book are gag humor, and gag humor just works better in film.
Yeah, there's plenty of that here, particularly wordplay. Like you said, the Big Bang Theory. You get a lot of wordplay here when it comes to the world. And the version I got, which was the Audible version, had like this whole introduction of like, oh, I wrote this to kind of like be much more fun with world building. And I don't really like those author introductions. I like to just go into the story.
Oh, so you had the prologue where it's just like, oh, I didn't come up with this. I just found it laying in a tool shed and ran away with it before anyone could stop me. Which is a little self-aggrandizing.
Yeah, it sounds long-winded, which kind of sums up a lot of the book, really.
All right, now this is not even close to my first Discworld entry because I got told that the book sucks.
Gotcha.
Like you talk to fans of Discworld and they're like, "Don't start there. No. Rinse, wins, and no. Start with Guards. And the Guards series is great. It is significantly better than this. I also last year read Small Gods, which was probably the best book I read that year. But that came from much later in his career where the ideas about the world were far more developed. His capacity as a humor author was significantly better. And I think most importantly, he had his own footing and he wasn't writing to market to try and talk about, hey, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Don't you like all these fantasy pulps going out there? Aren't they a little silly? Because he just kind of does his own thing at some point because he's actually basically referencing his own work, not making fun of Conan for half the book. So it gets much better later.
So he kind of finds his own identity, if you would.
Right. But I wanted to read the first one. Because maybe it's a massive amount of cope, but I do want to see that some of the best authors out there didn't start great. Now, later this year, I do plan to choose another Discworld entry, a standalone, not part of a series, from like later in his career to do a comparison. Because, like I said, Small Gods is one of the best books I've ever read. It's one of my few 10 out of 10s. This is not a 10 out of 10. This is maybe a 4.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah.
All right. For anyone who hasn't read this book, it's still funny. But it is kind of 3 books in one. It's written like a series of serial pulps jammed together following the adventures of the world's worst wizard and a tourist, which is kind of funny. It ends up leaning way too hard on fate as just self-aware plot armor, which is supposed to be the joke because he's joking about these fantasy adventure pulps where shit just works out. Which is funny because I'm also right now reading more Elric of Melniboné, which I still have this book from a previous book club. And there are it's like every single story in Elric is just, and then fate decreed that this would happen. So the magic conspired to make it happen. And then this excellent, massive monster kaiju fight happens. And then fate made it so because Elric is a slave to his fate.
So, Kang intervened.
Let's go through the stories chronologically if we can. It opens in media res, and it doesn't seem like it's in media res. And it especially doesn't seem in media res because when you get back to the present of the start, you're at the 1/3 mark of the book, and then you learn that this is 3 books. You guys notice that?
Yeah, it fell really flat as an in media res for me because it just when it first happened, I had no idea what the fuck was going on aside from there's this really shit wizard and some fucking fruitcake being dragged by his horse. And then when you actually catch up, you realize, this feels like a really weird point to kind of have in media res. It doesn't really tell you much about the central
if there wasn't
really going on.
If there wasn't the other 2/3 of the book, it would have made perfect sense because it's just, oh wow, Ankh-Morpork is burning and blowing up, and this wizard comes running out of it covered in smoke and chased by a weird luggage monster. How did this happen? And you're seeing the story through Hrun the Barbarian and Weasel or something, if I remember the names correctly.
I think it was Brav. I think it was Brav the Warrior and Weasel the Thief. Hrun comes
Brav
later.
Brav the Hublander.
Hublander,
and they're completely irrelevant. That
yeah.
threw me super hard. Was those two guys are just completely irrelevant.
It dedicates like quite a bit of time early on, so you really think they're going to have a lot more importance than they do. But then
That's multiple times throughout. Same with the other barbarian they run into around the dragon, and then he just fucking disappears.
Yeah,
they do just lose him.
Yeah, Horn got a decent bit of screen time, so I feel like he was all right. But then as soon as his relevance ends, he literally just
very cartoonishly, literally cartoonishly.
It's
very
more like
Acme even.
It's more like Rincewind and Two-Flower are the ones that disappear from it and that just follows them instead. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, this is the story of Rincewind and the mess he keeps getting into because he's tied at the hip through fate to an idiot tourist with too much money.
Yeah, but the thing is, like,
and
I was
the
not
cursed
thinking,
mimic
man,
that is unstoppable monster immune to magic used for gags.
Really, it's like the wizard hood of the traveling chest.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow what Harun was doing. I was like, I don't give a fuck what Rincewind's doing. I want to see what Harun's doing. He's smashing prime elf pussy on that upside down mountain.
Okay, we'll get to Rum when we get to the second book. The first one, I think, actually has a pretty good gag. Actually, it's like a pair of gags because the first one is that there's a tourist with too much money that is bringing trouble to town. And Rincewind is the only one that can actually speak with him because Rincewind's one quirk is that he's good with languages. So he finds a common language between him and Two-Flower, and Two-Flower is just like trying to take pictures and be a tourist of Ankh-Morpork, the city of heroes, that he's heard so much about because he's just like he's an insurance agent in an advanced society on the other side of the disc. And you know what? That's good for a comedy setup. And I think and the way it just brings out the scum and villainy of Ankh-Morpork. For the record, this is a fun introduction to like the main city of Discworld. And the fact that it just brings out the exact way these people behave, I think was pretty good. And the payback on the first bit, the in media res, where it's just like, oh, why is Ankh-Morpork burning to a crisp and exploding? Insurance fraud. They got introduced to the idea of insurance. They're immediately like, that's a bet I can win. And they just torch their entire city to ashes.
I think it was just the one guy trying to burn his bar down and then that accidentally stars into the whole city. But yeah, that was like the intent. That's the reason why it happened.
Yeah, which I think is genuinely funny.
Yeah, that's fucking brilliant.
It's good setup, payoff.
It's kind of worrisome when the first of 3 books is the best, like hands down. You guys basically agree that the insurance fraud was funny. The entire crap after that was not.
I enjoyed the world building. Very slapstick. I didn't enjoy kind of like what you mentioned beforehand, how the gods eventually got in and felt like just a giant D&D game. Because it took away some agency from the characters.
All right, so let's go to book 2, where it brings in the idea of gods are playing dice with these heroes. We were talking about this in the pre-show, Kashinjo and I at least. That exact same thing is used as a plot point in Goblin Slayer. And Goblin Slayer does it so much better because what it's saying is this is a Dungeons and Dragons game. You, the reader, are the gods. Because we're talking about a game, and the main character is the one who doesn't let the gods roll the dice. This one is just like, oh, all this random shit that's happening. Yeah, it's because the gods are fucking around.
Basically,
what's the message of the gods are playing dice?
That is funny on paper. It's just like the entire plot is happening because the gods are being fucking idiots. But then it doesn't really amount to much other than like, I don't know, plot armor. But that's about it.
Yeah, and it, like I said, it rips away agency. You want your characters to be able to affect the story other than feel like, oh, they're just stuck in another trap or something.
I think he was trying to make fun of other fantasy authors at the time. Or his predecessors. It's very obvious he was trying to make fun of Conan by portraying the barbarian hero as mentally incompetent. But like, that's just a misreading of Conan. Like, Conan is a straightforward, uncivilized man, but he's not stupid. Like, if you read the story, the Robert E. Howard stories, and come away thinking Conan's stupid, that's you being an idiot.
Yeah. See, there's a saying along the lines of, barbarians are more civilized than civilized men because in a barbarian society, you can't just run your mouth without the risk of getting your head chopped off. And I feel like, a barbarian by nature of having that kind of environment, that kind of upbringing, only the ones with at least half a brain and we're going to really get anywhere and not die in the fucking scenes.
Or you'll at least have your confidence beaten out of you by bigger kids, right?
Oh yeah.
So this huge section in the middle about like stumbling across the worm hard, the worm layer.
Wormberg, was it?
Wormberg? Oh yeah, it was a play on iceberg. Where the power of your
yeah.
imagination can bring real dragons to play, which, by the way, he actually uses that gag pretty well, where dragons aren't real. They're totally not real, bro. They're just creations of magic that can spawn from the plot happening. He uses that a lot better in some other books. So no foul play there. It's an idea he had. He tried using it, whatever. But they get brought there like completely randomly, like explicitly randomly, of the gods are just literally moving pieces on the board around, teleporting trolls and monsters and moving them into dungeons. So that random crap can happen, and they cheat at the dice even.
I feel like we completely skipped over the part where they went to a temple and some devil appeared.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
distracted by the dragons. There's this first thing where it's Baal Sotheth's temple.
After they get separated, I believe, right? They get separated first, and then Two Flowers ends up there, and our anti Gandalf goes after him.
Yeah, I think what happens is like Two Flower and Hrun get caught by the I don't know, the fucking Wormberg people riding dragons, and then Rincewind just left behind and he's left with fucking Hrun's sentient sword, which is suddenly sentient.
I was upset that the sword just went away. The sword was fun.
Yeah, Hrun as well. I missed Hrun.
Yeah.
Cool.
There was the whole thing with the dryads before he got sent to the temple. So perhaps now is the correct time to bring up the fact that Rincewind is technically a wizard who can't cast any spells because he, in his brain, is the ultimate magic spell left by the creator of the universe that does something.
It's like one of 8 great spells, and apparently it takes you basically your entire mental capacity just to register one of them. So,
now, what a mystery box.
And then there's a whole thing about how the number 8 is like kryptonite to wizards, and it's
because it summons Baal Sotheth, which apparently, like Cthulhu, has a very easy weakness of a flashlight.
That was brought back pretty well, like the whole picture box gag. I thought that was just be a one-off thing, then they actually bring it back to kill a fucking demon. I was like, fair enough. You set it up well.
So, but like the spell in his brain preventing him from casting magic is clearly a Chekhov's gun. It's been brought up multiple times. He gets out of scrapes because people are afraid of him casting the spell.
Yeah.
And even in the finale of the book, where he goes tumbling off the side of the disc, spoilers, he doesn't cast the spell. That pissed me off, actually. There was just no payoff to the fact that he can't cast spells.
Yeah, it's brought up so much in the book. Like it's a repeated. It's like the Baelish in Berserk. It keeps coming up. It's clearly important. It's clearly got to come back somehow, and then it just ends with not even a clue of like what it even is. Like maybe if it, I don't know, gave some explanation that it wouldn't help him stop tumbling off the fucking disc. Yeah, sure, whatever. But there's so many circumstances where like surely this great spell can do something great. You've been in so many shit situations, and it just ends, and there's no payoff for that.
So, based on some comments that Authors Play made in the Gilded server, which reminder, link in the description, it's totally free to join us. This is where I get guess. Rincewind casts it at some point in the series, which should free up his brain, and that's what Authors Play was complaining about. Was suddenly he should be able to learn spells, and he still doesn't. Which I think is just kind of proving the point of why nobody likes the Rincewind series in Discworld.
Well, I think that's within his character. Just like, hey, I can do it now. Doesn't mean I'm gonna.
I mean, does it ever establish like how long it's been stuck in his head? I imagine it's a while.
It's implied that it's been like a year or something.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Like,
If
you
it's
do
just-
not survive in Ankh-Morpork long. That's just how it works in Ankh-Morpork.
If it's only been a year, surely he hasn't completely unlearned how to learn spells. Does seem a bit... Then again, the passage of time in these books is a bit scuffed. It's like you get to the
Oh yeah,
third
no,
act,
it's intentionally. There are no maps, there are no distances, there are no times, because it's just like any of that just gets in the way of the humor.
I don't know, but like when you get to like at some point in the third act of the book or the third book of the book, it mentions they've been on this journey for 6 months. I was like, really? That's
Look
I
what
don't
we
know.
found in chat. We found
That's
somebody that
funny.
likes the Rincewind series. Someone that likes it. Interesting. Dapper, let me know. Have you read Small Gods?
I'd
Because the
imagine
quality
somebody.
between Color of Magic and Small Gods is like night and day, in my opinion.
I'd imagine somebody had to like it if it got a sequel.
Well, actually, that was an interesting thing I had. Maybe let's gloss over the third one. The third one is just this silly romp at the edge of the world, the circumfence. Because Fate is trying to get Rincewind killed because he keeps winning the dice. And they go on this adventure and they get knocked off the side of the edge. And honestly, I found book 3 incredibly forgettable.
The circumfence was like one of two funny things about it, and the other one was like one line of dialogue about a pirate captain being immortal. That was about it.
I thought it
Yeah.
was quite hilarious how it was like a nation full of hydrophobes.
Pratchett does like his puns like that. Oh, you want to levitate over water? You need a wizard who is so afraid of water that he's physically repelled from it.
That's clever. I like that shit. I mean,
Yeah,
I got into the spirit of the book. At the end, I knew it's probably not a best book ever. I'm probably never gonna pick it up again. But it wasn't offensively bad, and it kept me wanting to kind of read.
I don't know. I'll be honest. I struggled to finish it. I think the middle point of the book was where I liked it the least. Like when he's talking to the dryad, and it's just like it just felt like it was going in fucking circles. I'm like, what the fuck is even going on? Is this going to go anywhere? The middle part of the book was the hardest for me to get to. The third act, it was, I don't know, probably the one I have the least to say about, the one that like offended me the least. Like it was mostly just passable. Mostly just passable. It's like this soothes the ears while I play Dice Sphere program.
Now, one thing I do wish I would have gotten is a bit more character arc out of fucking somebody, because at the end, it's like everybody's exactly the same damn way they started. You have your whimsical tourist who's no more aware of how much danger he's fucking in, and you have your wizard who's just as grumpy as ever.
I don't know. I don't feel like the character
Saturday
development is
morning
necessarily a must. I feel like
Yeah,
I feel like
well, not a
comedy-
must, but it would have been nice, you know.
I don't know. I feel like comedy more than most genres benefits from like static characters. So you're like, yeah, like you'll know this character's gonna kind of lead into these kinds of jokes, and these other characters are gonna like play off it in that way. So in a way, I feel if it is like it's a very comedically heavy book, so I feel like the characters being a bit static isn't too bad for those purposes, but it isn't really consistently funny enough to really be worth the trade-off. I don't know.
So, a way I want to try to assess this book is imagining what its reception was like to a audience that doesn't have the Discworld. This is new to them, which is why you kind of can justify this opening mythological slog of how the turtle is holding 4 giant elephants that have a disc that is somehow rotating across their backs. And a sun that literally does not work. There is no explanation of how the sun is lighting the disc and also going underneath the turtle. There is no path that does that. And it's just like, don't ask about that.
It's beyond you, simpleton.
Normally the opening text dump is a slog, but in this case, like just the very premise is so batshit ridiculous that like it has comedic value.
He's kind of priming the pump of
this
is a ridiculous story. Absurd things are going to happen. Leave your preconceptions at the door, which is fine. But then he just goes on to like make fun of other fantasy tropes, which is kind of like cheating in a sense.
Yeah, it's like not going far beyond the ball field. Like it's got a good hook. It just doesn't really. I don't know. It's not bringing much fish to the hook. Makes sense.
So you got to
Not
try and
really
ask
much
yourself,
payoff.
why did this justify making more Discworld series? Why would an audience latch onto this without knowing where it could go? Why is this good enough to have built into a 35, I think,
it's a
book
lot.
series?
That's a
I
lot.
think it was like 41. I was checking this. I think it was 41 total. So,
I hope none of you write a series that damn long with the same two main characters, because damn, I like my stories to finish.
oh,
No
hang
promises.
on. I know there's like different branches of Discworld. I know there's like Rincewind
Yeah,
and there's
Yeah,
some of
for the record, there's only
gods.
like 5 Rincewind books or something like
I was
that.
saying I don't think they all have Rincewind. There's one that's like Loretta something or other, some little girl. I don't know. I've heard the guard ones are really good.
So there's actually a lot of examples throughout the last 50 years, let's say, of people kind of making a piss take about a genre that's popular, and then the piss take becoming more popular than the actual genre.
Yeah, it's true.
Um,
One Punch Man.
Gurren Lagann, Galaxy Quest.
Oh yeah. Galaxy Quest, I think they actually ranked as like the 7th best Star Trek movie.
I've heard people say it's actually the best.
It's good. It's damn good. But you know, that's what you do when you kind of like all those felt more like homages, though. Like, oh, we're gonna do our own spin.
Yeah,
on
there's
it.
a fine line between parody, homage, and piss take.
Yeah.
So here's another example. Which is better, The Force Awakens or Spaceballs?
Or
I would say Spaceballs.
I haven't watched Spaceballs, but considering The Force Awakens put me off Star Wars forever,
Yeah.
I'm going to go Spaceballs.
You
Spaceballs.
Alien
should
more
give
anyway.
Spaceballs a try.
Oh
should.
gosh.
Alien 1 is like forever clashing with Old Boy for my favorite film. I love it.
Dude, the gag of Lord Helmet trying to get teleported to the bridge room and it just not working. And it's just like, that's it, I'm coming over. And he's one door next door.
He's one door next. Yeah, yeah. Or he talks directly to the camera after giving a bunch of monologue. You get that?
Oh, dude. So
But
good.
I
should rewatch
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately,
If
it's
you think
probably
about
behind
that,
like a $15 paywall to watch right now.
probably, but you know, I think it's worth a watch because you think about it, it's it is taking a piss on Star Wars. And it does it very cleverly with a lot of humor, and it brings in a shit ton of talent.
Oh, so it's a parody of Star Wars. I thought it was a parody of Alien.
No, Spaceballs is a Star Wars parody.
No.
Oh,
Although I
think I've just only seen the Alien related stuff.
If you like Alien, I don't know, maybe up your alley, maybe not. There's actually, I think it's on YouTube, a fan-made audio version of Alien, and they recast everybody, and I think it was supposed to be gender-blind casting on that one too. So you actually get a dude as Ripley, and they go off of the original script a bit.
I mean, you know the original script had Ripley be a dude, right?
Yeah, yeah. So there should be little offense to that one, internet.
Well, yeah, in that little piece of trivia, the director has said in interviews, he was just like, well, it was supposed to be a guy, but she kind of intimidated all of us. And we're like, wait a minute, the character's supposed to be intimidating.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way you should do it, But yeah, Discworld, everybody.
Yeah, back on topic. Unfortunately, there's like, at the end of the day, it's a comedy book. You have to ask, is it funny?
It feels like it should be in some magazine with 15 other stories.
I'm just gonna say this. Okay, I am 5 chapters into Infinite Money Glitch by the forever handsome James Craig. I should add, who has no relation to this stream whatsoever. I'm not being coerced at gunpoint to say this. 5 chapters of Infinite Money Glitch. I have laughed more than like all of the Color of Magic put together. Like, even as a Brit, even though it had times where the humor was really up my alley, just genetically coded to work.
Mm-hmm.
It still didn't quite hit. I got like a few chuckles and a few I had like 1 or 2 lines where I laughed out loud. The rest was just like, okay.
Yeah. So I stand on the shoulder of giants. I actually based my humor on Terry Pratchett, on what I had learned and pieced apart from reading his books.
Nice.
But from his later, better books.
Refined Terry Pratchett. Level 50.
I believe it came from him. There's just like this basic advice of writing comedy is if you want to write a funny story, you have to have funny characters.
Uh-huh.
you got to put these weird contradictions into them so that you have material to work with during the plot. I think you've noticed that in Infinite Money Glitch with the cast, where it's just like, all right, the main character is a merchant trying to get a girl to notice him, but actually she has noticed him, and he just is not mature enough. But all right, that is his role in the plot, where he goes, "Oh my god, I found this stock market glitch." But he's funny because he's the tutorial zone merchant, and because his entire experience of players is them basically ransacking his place and running, he just hates the players of the game world.
I do have a question. I have not read your novel yet, but do you get into how that may affect the economy of dungeon runners?
So dungeons,
because this
Infinite
takes
Money
place
Glitch,
in a video game, correct?
Yeah, so dungeons are instanced, and actually gets really complicated. That's actually the problem with the book, is the way I tried to recreate a short squeeze from the stock market by having limited, like world limited quantities of high-end PvP gear, where you have to run dungeons to get the materials. But when you use the materials to build the gear, it frees up the ability to spawn more materials.
Okay.
So it's complicated and not something I want to get into on this stream, because I kind of screwed it up.
I
don't write perfect books, unfortunately.
That's fine. I always wanted to write a MMO-ish story about like an in-game stock market crashing and all these different players, from dungeon runners to PvE and the farmers and crafters, all essentially going to war with each other.
Yeah,
that could be great.
I'm not super far into Infinite Money Glitch yet, but like, some idea in the back of my head was that somehow caused the price of iron ore to go up by like hitting the spawn cap limits of like the amount of iron ore that can exist in the world or some shit like that.
So I took the start there from Indiana Jones, where I opened Infinite Money Glitch with like a 6-chapter mini plot, which is the exact plot of the book in microcosm, because he's accidentally accumulated like thousands and thousands of iron ore. Like, he has most of the iron ore in the world because he's doing something else with it. And then as soon as like they can't trade it on the market, supply and demand, the price of iron ore skyrockets. And he finds out like randomly, he's like, it's worth how much? Hold on, be right back.
That actually once happened to me in an MMO when I leveled up, had nothing to do. So all I did was mine the same exact ore in the PvP zone 24/7 for like 3 weeks, and then the price of it skyrocketed.
Right.
So back onto the terrible book that's apparently so forgettable that a half hour into the stream we start talking about another book.
Well, that's kind of the problem. That's what I was trying to say earlier. It's a comedy book. Did you laugh? Because that's the only metric that judges the quality of the book.
Or I should say, did you find it entertaining? For me, I didn't laugh too much, but I found it entertaining enough to see what the next gag was, to see where it was going. Halfway through, I picked it up. That's probably not going to be the most in-depth book. You shouldn't get too attached to many characters and just go along with it, because it opens up with like, hey, this is what's going on. This this person from another land's here. We don't want him to die. And then all of a sudden, another group's all like, hey, this came from somebody else from the same kingdom. We do want him to die. And then all these groups get together to see who's going to kill him. And then that story ends abruptly with insurance fraud.
So I was reading the book really expecting to get the spell at the end and for it to be an incredibly stupid spell. Like, in hindsight, like, imagine he falls off the edge of the disc and he finally casts the spell. And that's the gag of him waking up on a plane on Earth.
Oh, gosh.
That's why everyone's terrified of it. You get pulled off of Discworld and you end up as a mundane desk job working a 9 to 5.
I thought, because I've read a number of like first entries into series before, I knew it was going to be like just an ending like that. But I thought it was going to be him falling off and then casting the spell, and maybe us getting a third-person perspective far away from another land of like a bright light or some shit going off, or the world shook for a second and we don't know what the spell did, but we know that it was cast somewhere, and it's like, all right, perfect setup for another book where we find out what the fuck the spell did.
I mean, there is a bit of an element to that with like the sea troll guy, I forgot his name. You know, he mentions he fell into the Discworld from another world.
Yes.
So it does set up that kind of seems like where the ending is heading, like whether that actually is what happens in the next book. Like, I don't know.
I mean, like, even in the theme of absurdism, like the spell could have been something silly as hell. Like the spell makes one of the continent elephants sneeze, and a 50-ton glob of mucus hits Rincewind and knocks him back onto the disc.
That'd been hilarious. Something.
But no, we just kind of got nothing. So I got to the end of the book and I was like, excuse me? Is there another
some DLC I forgot to download?
Yeah, what the hell?
Well, yeah, disappointing ending, but yeah, I was kind of expecting it.
When it got to the end of the audiobook, I kind of like went back a minute. I was like, is this really the ending? Because I was like, it felt like it was in the middle of another scene altogether.
Didn't it have also a trick ending along the way? I don't necessarily remember, but it's like the end.
The reason I call this is 3 books in one is because it ends basically 3 times. And maybe this is just an artifact of how they published it. Because like they're standalone stories, basically. You get introduced to Rincewind and Two Flower in the first one. And then it's just like for book 2 and book 3, they're at some point in this stupid adventure where you already know these guys, and here's the trouble they've gotten into, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there could be an arbitrary amount of these, and this could have just been that the publishing house just went, I want 1, 2, and 7 here, and then we're gonna put 3, 5, and 9 in the next book.
That's an interesting way to write a series.
You always got to ask, was this a decision that the author made? Because Terry Pratchett was not Terry Pratchett when Color of Magic came out. Or did the publishing house dictate something?
Right.
I truly believe the bane of all creative decisions is decision by committee.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
so maybe that happened here.
I mean, there's a reason this whole self-pub thing has taken off in the evidence of the internet. You know, a lot of people with shit they want to do, but you know, the people who before were the only avenue to really do anything with that, you know, they can eat shit now. We can do our own thing. It's like back in those days, back in the ancient days of 1983. That's not going to happen. How are you going to get the word up?
You're going to hand out copies on the street?
How are you going to get books into a bookstore?
Yeah, how are you going to get books produced? Like, how are you going to get the materials? How are you going to get all that shit? Oh, Dapper Sloth says, feels like he just kind of throws new ideas out there without thinking about the implications. It's comedy, so that's okay, but for some reason it still took me out of it. Yeah, I do kind of agree. Like, it does feel a little bit slipshod, not very cohesive. Yeah.
There's plenty of comedy that brings in the implications, though, and that's the masterful stuff.
That's actually something that changes. The world of Discworld actually really congeals into something more cohesive and logical as the books go on. Because he just realizes basically that certain ideas and decisions work together better. Like the entire, there's a gag in here that like nobody likes the heroes because they probably have some leaky magic that is screwing up everyone's experiments and blowing things up a mile away. Completely gone. Never comes up again. And it's because like, okay, I can't have, say, a plot device show up if it destroys the wizards that it's supposed to interact with.
And also those Rincewind being threatened that, hey, every single town leader is going to know if you fuck up and they're going to all go after you for your head if you basically leave town, which happens almost immediately. Like, yeah, we'll leave town, burn it down, and then we're going to leave, and you're never going to show up again. Or did that guy die in the brawl? I don't remember. Because they went to meet up with the Assassins Guild. And then the Thieves Guild showed up, and then the Merchants Guild showed up, and they had a brawl. And then none of these guilds show back up, by the way. They all disappear after this.
Yeah, there was a lot going on just in that scene all at once.
I thought it was going to be like, hey, here's all these guilds, and then you're probably going to have some shenanigans with each of them along the way at that point. Before essentially we introduce pseudo Conan, at that point I'm like, okay, it's just a freaking, no idea what's going to happen next. Just go along with the story. But at that point, that you're setting all these people up. Clearly, something's going to happen involving all these groups. It doesn't.
There's just not enough connective tissue between the bots.
No, and what would have been nice.
Dapper's point, he may have been targeting like young, like preteens even. because there's nothing adult in this book.
It really isn't. Kind of reminds me of Goosebumps a little bit.
I'll believe you. I don't remember Goosebumps. I think I may have read you when I was like 6.
Yeah.
Never read it.
Yeah, pick up a Goosebumps, and you probably won't pick up another one.
I had a lot of friends who were big fans of Goosebumps back when I was about like 14, 15, but that was during the time where I'd read Twilight and been put off of reading for about 10 years, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
My mom made me read it.
Okay, so at this point, I think we've talked through the book. Like
We
it
really
really
did.
is not much to the book. It's an easy read. Don't get me wrong. It's
The dragons were fun.
270 pages, pocket edition. Which is kind of why I chose it for the book club, because I know a lot of people are busy and choosing whatever random book I choose to read and talk about. Not everyone always wants to do that. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to do a Catch-22 ever again.
Oh gosh, I only made it
Christ.
halfway through that book, and I missed the stream on it too. Fuck. What did you guys think of that? Real quick, throw it at me.
It was very good. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked Catch-22. I'm very glad that I read it. It was a bad choice for a book club, though, because it was simply too long. And a lot of
Very
people
long.
can't bite into it because there's this constant back and forth on, are these people horrible? Do I like them? Do I hate them? Are they insane? Am I insane? Is the reader insane?
What the fuck's going on?
And then everything just ties together in actually a very sad way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get that far. Maybe one of these days I'll have to finish it, but it's really a long book. I remember sitting
I didn't realize.
When I think of reading through that one, I remember going through so many different experiences in life while listening to that in the background.
On a moment-to-moment level, it was more enjoyable and funnier than the Gormage, which fair enough. It's more adult-oriented. It's more to our taste, but it really did. Like there were slow periods. There were periods where I'm like, that didn't quite work for me, but it still captured my interest. Right, like there's a lot of running gags that are really building to something. Then you get to the end and it hits.
So the payoffs were so good.
Like the whole thing with Dr. Nika being like classed as dead, and he's just trying to insist to everyone, "I'm not dead. I'm not dead." But everyone's just like, "Oh, shut up, Danica, you're dead. It says so on the records. Back to craps." And he just at some point he stops being mentioned, but I have it in my head that like in every scene he's just sitting on a stool somewhere.
Yeah. When Chief gets chased off the base because they find oil on it.
I knew it would happen.
Freaking hilarious. Yeah, I did love the payoffs. There's payoffs throughout, particularly the ones I believe involving, was it eggs? You sell eggs for 5 cents. You sell eggs. You buy them for 7 cents.
Making money.
Yeah, you buy them for 7 cents and you sell them for 5 cents and make a profit.
Oh, well, that one about the prostitute's sister, something like that. Was it? The one with the steak knife. Yeah,
that started funny, and then just went a little bonkers. I actually think the prostitute was the worst plot line in the book.
I don't remember. I don't think I got that far.
Oh, well, when it got to the point of we're going to tie her up, put her on a plane, and drop her behind enemy lines overnight, and then come back. Come on.
That's made funny because she just fucking finds a way back anyway.
I also found out in the recent years, haven't seen it, have no intent to see it, but apparently there's a short series based off of Catch-22. It's Catch-22 short series.
Oh yeah, that looked good. I didn't watch it. But...
Yeah, I mean,
right,
I think it can't really get better than the book.
I've got Master Dangles here making accusations about February's book club, which if you were in the Gilded, you'd know I've already announced it, but I'm gonna build up to it here now because I do have the next book, and I'll let you know that it's 426 pages in mass market printing, and I've switched back to science fiction. And this is a book I haven't read, so I can't actually vouch for it, but it's like the number 3 military sci-fi book you'll pull up, which is
so good.
John Stakely's Armor.
Once again spelled wrong.
Shut up, Kishinjo. Universal Soldier. The planet is called Banshee. The air is unbreathable. The water is poisonous. It is home to the most implacable enemies that humanity in all its interstellar expansion has ever encountered. Body armor has been devised for the commando forces that are to be dropped on Banshee, the culmination of 10,000 years of the armorer's craft. A trooper in this armor is a one-man atomic-powered battle fortress, but he will have to fight a nearly endless horde of berserk, hard-shelled monsters, the fighting arm of a species which uses biological technology to design perfect mindless war minions. Felix is a scout in A-Team 2, highly confident he is the sole survivor of mission after mission, yet he is a man consumed by fear and hatred, and he is protected not by his custom-fitted body armor, but by an odd being which seems to live within him, a cold killing machine he calls the Engine. This is Felix's story, a story of the horror, the courage, and the aftermath of combat, and a story, too, of how strength of spirit can be the greatest armor of all. I believe, if I have not been misinformed, this was written in reaction to Starship Troopers.
Really? I kind of sound like Starship Troopers there. I was like, huh, the Heinlein?
Yeah. There's a trio of military sci-fi books that started with Starship Troopers, which is great. And then Joe Haldeman wrote The Forever War because he was just like, no, this is how the military is actually like. And then they hit it off and became friends.
Nice.
And then John Stakely was like, no, then you're both wrong. This is how it would be like. And I don't think they became friends, but it's a well-respected book anyways.
I'd be checking.
That is the genesis of a lot of modern sci-fi. Like if you listen to that back of the book there and didn't go, oh, we're talking about Ultramarines fighting the Tyranids.
Yeah, I mean, amongst other books, in fact, I recently read a series, or I read the first intro to a series called Helldivers, which was basically that, just apocalypse on Earth and humanity living in the sky.
Is that any relation to the game Helldivers?
No, I thought it was going into it, and I was disappointed. But then I'm like, hey, this actually isn't bad.
Was that the one where they're all in blimps?
They're not in blimps.
I read the first one.
They're like in
Super get me the
kid part.
I don't remember what I didn't like. I just read it and I was like, eh.
It was all right, but they had this plot where this kid does shit that's a bit too John McClane-y, and I was like, nah, I don't need a 10-year-old doing that. Same reason I couldn't wholly get into Ender's Game.
There's nothing wrong with Ender's Game.
I mean, just the ages in Ender's Game, you got like 60-year-olds and shit. And like, when it came to the ages, like, but I love the character development and the world and the dialogue and all that. Unlike this book.
Okay, so I have not read any Advances Dying Earth. I've had it recommended multiple times, and I might do it later this year.
If we're gonna actually, you know what? I got a book for anybody who's interested in any monster hunting, and it is actually a book written in the 1800s called The Wanderings of an Elephant Hunter, about a real elephant hunter who goes into Africa, all over Africa, and documents his experiences. And the opening, why I actually suggest it for monster hunters, is it's almost like this manual of how to kill an elephant. Shows you where to shoot them, what it means when an elephant does this after you shoot them here, how far you should expect them to move if you shoot them here. And one of my favorite portions, he says, if an elephant is charging at you, the best thing to do is to stand still and open fire. And he's like, well, how did you learn that one? And it's all just this guy's experiences going through Africa in the 1800s, and I believe it's a little after
drop the title in the Gilded. I mean, I'll wish list it. That sounds interesting.
It's great. I loved it.
I mean, I do know like monster hunter. That sounds up my alley. Paul bites.
Yeah. Wanderings of an Elephant Hunter. I'm putting the Gilded right now.
So, unfortunately, you guys, if you follow me on Twitter, you may have heard me complaining that I bought a book off my wish list and learned upon arrival that it was over 1,000 pages long. Either of you see that one?
I think I've seen you mention it.
Yeah, so some people are like, oh man, I love epic fantasy. I could get through 1,000 book and it'd be great. I love it. Don't be a coward, man. But I'm a science fiction author. This is the boat anchor I just bought. The Road to Reality by Roger Penrose. So that's a book that'll break your shelf. But I'm hoping that it will either just refresh me on everything I learned in college or give me some more material to work with writing my sci-fi.
Yes.
I recognize that's going to be a slog, though.
I have a book similarly that size. Go ahead.
I was saying that fucking book wouldn't even fit on my shelf.
Get a bigger shelf.
I actually got most of the audio.
I have the box room, James. I can't.
I got this book called Red Mars.
All right, you're British.
Not sure if you heard of it. I just started reading it.
Hear good things about it.
Yes, I'm reading it. It's actually pretty good. Very political, hard sci-fi about how Mars just gets colonized and falls into its own little civil war. over generations, and it's pretty good. Although when it gets into some aspects, if you're not into learning about rocks and how important they are in some aspects, there can be
The regolith.
chapters you're like, all right, I don't really need to read these next 3 chapters. This is where the story continues right here. There we go. Overall, since we're here, then, what did you think about the book we stopped talking about 15 minutes ago, Color of Magic?
Well, it
Can we all
was
give our opinions?
mediocre, leaning negative. You know, like James said earlier, 4 out of 10. I'm bang on that as well. I'd agree with that. It has its moments. Like my favorite line in
Yeah.
the book, right? It's I put it in the Gilded. Yeah, some pirates achieved immortality by great deeds of cruelty or daring do. Some achieved immortality by amassing great wealth. But the captain had long ago decided that he would prefer to achieve immortality by not dying. And just like maybe the narrator was open with that, just like something about the way that line came across so fucking. It was very flat, very deadpan, but not long-winded like half the fucking jokes in this book. Like that fucking crappy with it.
Yes, great. It has a few of those along the way.
Oh, I can actually explain something that is why this book sucked compared to later books.
Yeah.
There you can see that he does have a sense of humor in this book, but he uses one-note jokes. Whereas if you go into the Guard series, he will literally build the entire book around a single joke, where he will introduce it to you and give you a punchline for that joke at the very beginning. And then halfway through the book, as things are starting to escalate, you get the same joke with a bigger payoff, and you go, "Oh, that's a good callback."
Yeah.
And then in the finale of the book, the clinching moment of solving the problem is a payoff to the same joke for a third time at an even bigger scale.
So it's like he went from writing like he was writing for Family Guy to writing like he was writing for South Park.
Yes. Which, by the way, someone made this comparison. The book is like a Family Guy skit.
Kind of is.
Oh my god! Did you hear about that time I was on an airplane and stopped a terrorist?
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Yeah. I am interested in reading the God. I am interested in giving the Gods the Night Watch, the City Watch books to read.
Guards. Okay.
Yeah, it starts with Gods.
Get the British out of your lip, man. Come on, enunciate.
You fucking what, mate? No, wait, that's Steve Owen. But no, I am interested in reading the City Watch ones. I don't know if it was Gods, but I've heard one of them has this whole running gag where things will only happen if their odds are literally 1 in a billion, and like it keeps building on.
I think that's the second one.
That sounds fucking hilarious. I need to get those ones to try. Like I can just imagine the mileage you get over.
Yeah, that's one of the jokes where it's paid off like 3 times across the series of the book. Yeah, it's very good. All right, so guys, you introduced yourselves at the beginning. We're gonna wrap up because it's supposed to be a 1-hour stream. I'm gonna point out again. We talked about Infinite Money Glitch earlier in the middle of the stream because Kasinjo was praising it very kindly.
Soul Jack.
The link to that is down there. It is a funny heist adventure novel set inside a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, kind of like World of Warcraft, except not. It's actually less functional than World of Warcraft, if you believe it or not.
It was developed in California. Right.
But it is very funny if you like gaming stuff, and if you are like me and lost money to the GameStop short squeeze a few years ago. And yeah, the link to that is in the description. And like I said at the beginning, I actually need to buy some repair stuff after water damage down here. So please, I need reviews. Help me out. Subscribe to the channel and like as well.
Yeah, when I finish, I'll give you a pristine 1-star review. There you go.
There you go.
I'll take it. Nobody's going to believe that book is a 4.9 out of 5.
Yeah, I could believe it. I could honestly go believe it. I am really liking it so far. Unless you really fuck it up later, then maybe I'll join in on that.
All right, my turn to show. My name is James Esparza. I'm creator, owner, operator, World Without End Lore, my own home-brewed world that I am forever expanding. Last month, just released our first short audio story that is fully dramatized, meaning you're going to get Foley. You got a full cast, not the best cast, but they were free. And It's probably my best story. I poured a lot of effort into it, and much like Craig himself, who has an issue with trying to get his fans to read 2 separate genres, this one was so good. I think the next story I write, and from now on, all my stories, when they are released, they are going to be released with a fully dramatized audio version too, and their first versions are going to be completely free. So get your hands on them, guys. We're working on it.
How long's the drama?
It's roughly like an hour, a little under an hour.
I was thinking EFAPing it with you.
Hey, it's there. It's up for free. I think it was like the second post I made. I try to post at least once a month with all the stuff I'm working on and getting art. I got maps. I got a bunch of stuff. I got character bios, and now I'm putting it all together for stories. And I got this super awesome kind of chronicle unfolding involving zombies, involving little elf creatures, involving soldiers with guns, because it's a mix of genres. You're gonna love it. Come join the journey at worldwithoutendlore.substack.com.
Link in the description.
Link in the description.
Kashinjo.
Link in the description.
When is your second book coming out, Kashinjo?
Well,
what's your first book?
It's The Angel of Subjugation, Part 1. It doesn't have any angels in it.
Well,
So,
here's
yeah,
a fun fact
I'm
for
going to
you.
sue you for false advertising.
Here's a fun fact for you. The term angel actually refers to messenger. Haha.
Yes, it is. Here's a message. Buy my fucking book. No.
Nice. What kind of
Okay.
book is it? Tell me about your literature.
It started as a rip-off of Lapusel Ragnarok, a Japan-only PSP game. Then over time, it turned into a rip-off of Berserk, and now it's kind of like found a nice little even ground in between. You know, it's little man from a little village goes on the adventure of a lifetime and meets some colorful characters and is constantly followed around the fucking world by bird people.
Oh, crap.
You're selling it wrong. It's not a ripoff. It's for fans of Records of Ragnarok.
Okay,
There you go.
it's for fans of Lapusel Ragnarok, Berserk, Xenoblade Chronicles, Toho. Fuck, what else are they steal stuff from?
Hey, do you like gore and misery porn?
It's not misery porn. Okay, honestly, I think I think my biggest issue with the first one was I was too light. I was like, there wasn't enough misery porn. Too much of it was happy. I need to dial it back a bit. But no, I do pride myself on a good balance of, you know, making you happy and then making you want to die. That's what I pride myself on. The second one will most assuredly come out sometime this year, but every time I make a specific deadline, I end up missing it. I was supposed to finish this draft in like November, and I've only just done the last chapter of it. So yeah, we'll get cracking, motherfucker. I could do with finding a cover artist, so I'll be on the pro for one of those. But in the meantime, I shall be polishing it up, finishing it off, and I do also plan to do something with my Royal Road accounts, which I shall post about that on my Twitter and my own website, castlecashinjo.neocities.org, when I have something to show for it.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for coming
for
on,
fans
guys.
of Jigoku Raku.
Chat, thanks for tuning in. And for the book club, we'll be back in a month to talk about Armor. I'll probably do another streams like more Pal World at some point. So,
that's pretty good.
So you should subscribe.
Yeah,
And
see you next
now. So peace.
I love slavery.
As do